Hey, welcome back to Old School Gamers. Today we're going to check out the spinner booster kit for your Tankstick Max. I'm going to show you how to install it and what exactly this thing does. Let's get into it.
Tankstick Max is X-Arcade's latest version of the Tankstick, and if you want to check out the video where I did a full review of that, just click the link above. The Tankstick Max comes with an additional programmable button. This can be used for bringing up menus and game exiting, for example, and it also comes with 2 additional spinners for games like Tempest and Warlord and Arkanoid that I'm playing here. So let's talk about what this spinner booster upgrade kit is and what is it going to do for your Tankstick Max. The Spinner Booster Kit is X-Arcade's recent effort to get us a bit closer to the feel of the original arcade spinners. The 2 spinners on the Tankstick Max currently have a CPR of 200, or counts per revolution, and the Booster Kit allows you to go and boost that CPR up to 8 times that, or 1600 CPR. Because the stock spinner in the Tankstick Max only registers 200 counts per revolution, it's not going to be as sensitive, and so it won't register as many movements when you turn it. So by increasing the CPR, you're going to allow for a smoother, more precise control over the spinner, and that's what you need, especially in games like Arkanoid. And more importantly, with this level of precision, you can tailor the sensitivity in MAME so that the spinner will now behave closer to the original hardware, and it will be a more enjoyable experience for, arcade purists. And we're going to do that in a minute, right after we install it. So let's first talk about the combo PCB that comes with your kit. This table here will break down the effect that each of the dip switches on this PCB will have, and will ultimately determine how much boost your spinners will get. And it'll also determine 2 other options for flipping your X and Y movement, and whether or not you want the mixer to be enabled. Remember, this booster upgrade kit for your spinners has a built-in mixer. What this means is that your 2 mouse inputs for the spinner and trackball are combined into 1 mouse input. And I go more in depth into this into my video reviewing the Tankstick Max. So looking at this table, you can see that across the top there are switches 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for example, if you have both switches 1 and 2 on, you will get the full boost at 1600 counts per revolution. If you want to go all the way down to a quarter speed, you would turn those both off. Now switches 3 is used for the X and Y swapping if you wish to do that, and switch 4 is used to either enable or disable the mixer. Out of the box, mine came with switches 1, 2, and 3 on, and switch 4 off. So that means I was at 1600 CPR, I had a standard XY configuration for my spinners, and for the mixer I had it enabled, which is what I wanted. As you can see, X-Arcade actually has a link to Arcade Control's website where they actually dive into the numbers and calculations on how to do sensitivity. So let's do a quick example and then we'll get to installing it. So here's a list of all the games, and they have the effective tooth counts and counts per revolution for each of the games that use spinners. Very cool. So for Arkanoid, it's 486 counts per revolution. Okay, so what does that number mean, and how are you gonna use it in setting up the sensitivity, and how do you know what switches to use on your booster kit? So in my example, we set it up to be 1600 counts per revolution. Whatever yours is, make sure you do the right number. But this is how you calculate the sensitivity. So we're going to take 100 and we're going to multiply that by the counts per revolution for that game, in this case Arkanoid. So 100 times 486 is 48,600, and we're going to divide it by the counts per revolution that we set it to, which was 1600, and that comes out to 30. So that is going to be your sensitivity that you should set in MAME. Now, one little thing to note, that is the setup for a PC. If you're setting it up for a Raspberry Pi, you should double it. So if you came out with 30, make it 60. That's just one of the differences. So now that we know how everything works on the combo board and all the switches, let's install it to our Tankstick Max. Overall, it's pretty easy and can be done in minutes, and I'd give it a 3 out of 10 for difficulty. It's not too bad. First, this is what the kit comes with. It will have 2 spinner sensors, it'll have some screws, and 3 booster kit upgrade discs, and of course a new PCB. First thing you want to do is take your Tankstick Max, and I like to use the box and just flip it upside down. That way the joysticks just kind of hang down and there's no weight on them, but you do however you want. And you'll need a flat head, and just pull out each of the rubber, covers so that the screws can be exposed. And what you're going to do is use a Phillips and remove those screws. Now, these screws are actually set into the wood, so don't go too fast when you're unscrewing or screwing them back in, or you will strip out the wood. So go slow and steady. Once you get all the screws out, just pry it open and move it out of the way. So here's a look on the inside of the Tankstick Max, and we're going to be replacing both the sensor and the discs that are located on both sides. And of course, the combo PCB is going to replace the PCB that's in there as well. First, you're going to replace the PCB, so make sure that you unplug all of the cables, and of course, please don't forget where they are. Take a picture of it, write it down, do something, but just pull them out gently and put them to the side. And if I didn't mention it already, make sure that your tank stick is unplugged before you start this. But once you get these 4 cables unplugged off of the PCB, just set them off to the side and then gently remove the screws as I'm doing here. Make sure you don't overstrip them, and simply remove the PCB once you get all the screws off. Alright, so here's the new PCB, and I'm going to put it up next to the old one so you can see. So a lot of the ports are there. There's also additional ports, and as you can see, there's a little switch section here where the dip switches are at. Just put your plugs back in the exact same ports that lined up with the old ones, and make sure your switches are set to exactly what you want for your CPR, XY settings, and of course mixer settings as well. Screw it back in and tighten everything down, and make sure that you don't overstrip them, and just plug in the cables back to the ports that lined up where they were before. Quick side note is when you're plugging the ports back into the new PCB, those plugs are going to be flipped. So if you pulled it, straight up and you try to push it straight back down into the new one, it's not going to flip, or it's not going to work. Flip it around, then it'll work. So for whatever reason they did that, but oh well. But it'll still go into the same plug that was in the same location as the old one. Alright, PCB is in, and for any reason, if you do want to change any of the dip switches, you can do that. You can use a pin or anything that'll fit, paperclip, just to move the switches in the other direction so that you can change them after you've installed it. Alright, let's change out the spinner kit. So as you can see, as you spin the spinner, the disc is actually moving on the bottom side, which is picked up by the optical sensor, and it counts the teeth as they go by. So here's the new one, and the teeth are so small you can't even see it. I mean, maybe you can see that? I don't know. Anyway, the new one is 1600 teeth. The standard one is only 200, so huge difference. What we're going to do is just pull the sensor off. It's just clipped on by friction. All you got to do is just pull it towards the sensor, and it'll make a little snap noise, and it'll just come right off. And what you're going to do is unplug the sensor from the power port, the white plug on the back, and you're going to swap it out with the new one. Next, we're going to remove the disc. This is so easy. All you got to do is hold the spinner on the bottom, and with your other hand, unscrew the screw that's holding the disc down. Once you get the screw off, the disc can just be easily set off to the side. Once you get it set off to the side, what you want to do is push the new sensor back on, and make sure you don't have the disc on there because you might crush it or, break it. So push the sensor back on, it'll snap. Once we get the sensor on, we're going to put the disc on the top again and make sure it's between the optical sensors. You'll see it, and just hold the spinner down on the bottom and screw the screw back in to about hand tight. You don't need to really over torque this, too much. Give the spinner a spin and make sure there's no friction and it, turns pretty smooth. And if so, you are good to go. Let's go on to the next one. For the spinner that's closest to the M3 LED button, this one is a lot more difficult. There's a lot less room, so this one may frustrate you a little bit, especially for someone with bigger fingers, or just not very dexterous, using your hands. So just be careful with this one. Take your time, you'll get it done. The good news is they do give you an extra disc and an extra screw in case you drop or break or lose, either one of them. But be careful. So here's my closing thoughts. First, after I had installed the kit, I noticed that my X-Arcade spinners didn't register at all. I kind of freaked out. But I discovered the issue was that MAME detected them as mouse 2 instead of mouse 3 before. So just be aware of this in case you run into the same issue. But oh yeah, the playstyle change was immediate. I mean, before I was having to almost spin the spinner just to get my little Arkanoid guy to move across to the other side of the screen. And now I can do it with just a twist of the hand, just like in the arcade. So overall, I am very happy with this upgrade. It's just an easy way to upgrade your spinners to a more authentic arcade feel, and that's what makes these games more fun to play. That's the goal. We really want to enjoy these games like we remembered. So yeah, if you want to boost your accuracy and precision in spinner-based arcade games, the Spinner Booster Kit is simply a no-brainer. So that's it for this video. I will catch you next time.